Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling. Welcome to another episode of The Pleasure of Painting, and today we're covering slightly more unconventional color schemes, using sort of breaking the norms using a Chaos Space Marine as an example. The first step that I'm going to do is use silver ink, which is about as bright a silver as you can get from metallic paints, and we're going to want to put this on all the flat panels. Now, usually with Chaos Space Marines, you'll see the more flat colors, your reds, blues, blacks, and so on the flats, and have the trim be metallic. But I wanted to show how this model can look if you sort of go in the opposite direction. And with that, I got the idea of bright silver armor with black trim. Now, with silver ink, it does take a couple coats, but it's totally worth it. It has this beautifully shiny feel. It'll stand out completely on the tabletop. And aside from that, it's a little different from a normal paint. You want to give it a little extra time to dry before you put more on, and make sure you shake it very well. Otherwise, it'll occasionally tinge a slightly strange color, and I'm not exactly sure why. However, as long as you shake it well and let it dry properly, it'll apply perfectly. Now the next step is to tidy up the trim using black. Now you may notice the lighting gets weird here. I'm not sure why, if it was a setting on my phone or if my lighting system blew itself out, but for some reason the colors here is very washed out. But regardless, you're just going to want to use black to get all the trim and tidy up any areas that you're going to want to paint something else later. Now, I don't really use too many colors on this model. I'm mainly doing the armor and his flamethrower. But anywhere else that you'd want to paint a different color, you'd also probably want to pick up with black or with a lighter color if you're using that. However, we're going to get to that later. For now, just take your time and really just take it slow, going around painting all the armor trim. This may look quite strange, but once we get to the following steps, it'll start to make a lot more sense. Now, next up, we're going to use our only other metallic in this paint scheme, which is lead belcher. We're just going to put this on a couple things, such as his Vox grill, obviously his flamethrower, and I forgot to do it, but I'd also put it on the dagger on his hip. But it's just sort of, sometimes when you're painting, you'll just kind of someone will slip past your mind. Hey, come on, guys. Sorry, my dog was just being a little aggro to our other dog. But again, this is just how you apply lead belcher on pretty much any other Chaos Space Marine. But instead of applying your metallics to the trim, it's just to the actual mechanical bits, the vents, his flamethrower, and of course his Vox grill. You can't have your Vox grill be any other color, really, if we're being honest. I also picked out this vent on his backpack, as I figured it would look a little strange if that was also black. And there's that dagger you can see. I think you can understand why I missed that the first time through. It's because of the new black background I'm using, which looks the same, but I made some adjustments to make it more consistent. Next up, I'm using Administratum Gray, one of my favorite colors, to paint in the joints, as well as start to mix up our highlight color. That's the next step. For now, as per usual, just paint this into all the visible joints, so that would just be on his left arm, both of his knees, and I also applied this to his eyes, because I'm going to use my contrast method for eyes later, using a very, very deep red. From here, you're going to want to just apply this in those places, as I said. And from there, you're going to actually want to paint the dangly crotch flag as well, which I think it's technically a tabard, but dangly crotch flag is more fun to say, right? And honestly, this one's not as important to get a fully even coat, as we're going to be covering it with contrast later to add a little bit of extra color. Then the next step is the most important step. It's going to be edge highlighting with gray. I mixed it up to be slightly darker than just straight out of the pot, but you're going to want to apply this onto just the most sticky out parts of his armor, and if you're feeling more confident, you can do it on every black section. I mainly did it on his face, his shoulder pads, his flamethrower, and the vents on his power pack. Which, fun fact, did you know those were originally going to be jetpacks, and were so in Rogue Trader? There was a lot of old concept art of slightly weird looking Space Marines flying around. Here you can see me picking out a few more of the details around his legs with this color. This is an important step, I always think, as it just helps the joints, which are going to be quite dark soon, stand out more from the black armor surrounding them. Here you can see me highlighting using the slightly angled brush method, which is a very, very easy way to edge highlight hard edges like this. Next up, we are using very, very diluted Flesh Terror's red contrast on the eyes, including the one on his gun. I always like painting those with a bit of color. And we're also going to put this on his dangly crotch tabard. This is just to add a little bit of color that isn't particularly stark. And if I'm being honest, if I went back, I might use a slightly brighter red, such as blood red from the army painter. However, this does really keep the focus on that black and silver armor. And that's, for the most part, what we need to do. There's only a few steps left before we've reached the finished product. Here you can see I'm about to apply it to his tabard, or dangly crotch flag. You know what? From here on out, I'm just going to call those dangly crotch flags. So apply this to his dangly crotch flag. Don't forget the back. I tend to do that a lot when I'm painting Chaos Space Marines, but it's very important with this model. So much of the armor here is so bright, you'll generally be drawn to things you wouldn't expect. Or rather, your eyes would be drawn to things you wouldn't expect. And the next step is a very important one, as our final step in this video. And it is using Gravelord Gray from the Army Painter to paint in all the joints, which brings them to a much darker, slightly more faded rubber look, which is obviously what you want, for the most part, for Chaos Space Marines. And you're also going to apply this over all of the lead belcher, just the lead belcher. We want to keep the silver armor looking pristine, like it's a knight in shining armor, but of course it's a Chaos Space Marine, so he's like a twisted knight in shining armor. So you'd see this and you'd think, oh, these noble Space Marines are coming, and then you realize, oh no, I now see that he's covered in spikes and Eyes of Chaos. You can see I applied it a little too heavily on the fuel canister, but that's a very easy fix. You're just going to want to dry your brush lightly and then come back in and push all that around. Unlike with contrast paints, speed paint you can generally push around a bit more, as it won't have the same issue of tearing up the first layer. Anyway, here's the finished product. I also painted his belt brown, but that's such a simple thing, I just sort of left it out. But as you can see, I did forget to paint the knife. Regardless, my name has been Spoons Rattle. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.